We had another good year at the co-op. Harry's talked about it a little bit. Angie gave a great report for us on the financial side of how the co-op did. It's always nice to be reporting the way that it was reported tonight. And as Harry mentioned, in times like this, it's really nice to be having a good, strong financial report, and that is what the co-op had last year. A few other things that I want to mention also in this past year. Our safety record is something that we care about a lot. It has to do with the health and welfare of our employees and of the public also. And we made a milestone this past year. We passed 3 years, the 3-year mark with no lost time accidents, and that's a great thing right there. Our employees made a commitment several years ago to say, hey, we can do this. We can work without having any lost time accident. That means everybody's going to be safe. They're going to get to go home at night, safe to their families. And it was quite a mark to finally get to that. It's a dangerous industry we're in. You don't get a second chance a lot of times if you make a serious mistake here. So they've done well. Now, unfortunately, we had an employee who just couldn't quite outrun a dog, and I think he pulled a hamstring, and that took us off of that 3-year mark. So we'll start it over again, and we'll be looking to get 4 years this time coming up. We didn't have any major storms last year. That's a big thing. When I was reporting a year ago, we were talking about the ice storm of December 2007. It caused us quite a bit of damage down in Cherokee County. I will say we're very fortunate. FEMA provides assistance to electric co-ops. And we get assistance when we have those storms that are declared a disaster by the president, and then funds are made available. They helped pay for us to get our system put back together after that December storm. A lot of money. And then we also had some of the system that was in bad shape because of the storm, and we're going to get to rebuild 40 miles of that also. So that's quite a deal for us. That happened from the December storm. We didn't have anything big in 2008, but we'd rather it be that way. It was an interesting year in the fact that we had a lot of lightning outages. A lot of lightning outages. So many lightning outages that the operations department sat down and said, my gosh, can we do something about this? So they're working pretty hard. They've come up with a pretty good plan. It's going to be interesting to see what happens this year. It's going to take a little while for the fruits of their labor to yield for us and see if it's going to make a difference. But lightning is a big issue for us, and it seems to be getting worse. You know, with the weird weather that we have anymore, that seems to be one. And we had quite a lightning storm last night that caused us a few outages again. Angie reported on the growth in kilowatt hour sales. That equates to growth in revenues, and that's an important thing because costs are going up all the time. We've seen some pretty big increases in the cost of our materials, the cost of our poles, the cost of labor goes up, the cost of benefits goes up, the cost of everything goes up. We need to see increase in sales to help cover that so we don't have to try to make that up with an increase in electric rates. We've had a couple good things happen to us. There have been 2 pipeline pump stations come on the system in the last year. One of them is down by Humboldt, one of them is right up here north of town. Some of you might have seen the new Enbridge station up here, like 2 or 3 miles north or something like that. Those are big deals for us. We're going to see our sales increase 20% just by those 2 loads alone, 1 meter each on each of them. Increase the system by 20%. That's good for all of us. It's good for them because they're going to get good service from the co-op. We're proud of that. But it's good for us as members because if we can bring loads on like that, that just buys us more time down the road that we can be covering our expenses without having to do anything inside of the rates to try to help cover those expenses. We haven't had any change in electric rates for several years now, and we're proud of that. We're working hard to keep our costs under control, but we also know that we've been fortunate to have some growth that's helped cover that also. But as was mentioned in the President's report, things may be changing in that area right there. We're really concerned about what might be happening to the cost of our power. I'll talk about that a little bit more. The board's begun a rate study, and what we're looking at initially is not a need to increase rates. We want to make sure the structure is right. There's a lot of stuff happening in the industry and a lot of stuff going to be happening in the industry in the way electricity is used and whether there's renewables coming in on our system, different things like that. We've got to make sure that the rates are in the right place. And whether we move monies around into the service availability fees from kilowatt hours, rates, whatever, that's what we're looking at. We've got to get a good handle on this because things are going to be different in the future. 5 years from now, 10 years from now, they might be a lot different in the future. So the board's really got a challenge to stay ahead of that. We've also scheduled, the board has scheduled a strategic planning session for this summer, and that's a big thing for us. It's been 5 years since we've done a strategic plan, and that helps give them assistance in determining how we're going to prepare for and how we're going to address the future needs of the co-op. So I'm really looking forward to that. I know they are too. Preparing for the future appears to be getting much more difficult. The future is bringing change. It's bringing difficult change. I've been talking for several years now, and when I make my report to the members, a lot of it deals with the change in the co-op. A lot of times I was talking about change in technology coming available to us, more efficient ways of doing things coming available to us, and what we had was the opportunity to get a bigger bang for our buck, to be able to do more with less, be able to keep prices under control, and improve the service to our members. Those were all important things. And it was kind of fun to be able to report on that type of change and be in the middle of that type of change, know that you're making improvements, hoping that you're making a difference in people's lives. That's all good. But the changes that we're facing now may take away from our service reliability. They may take away from our ability to hold the line on prices. And those changes would be in increases in our cost of electricity. We've all been following the papers, the press. We know what the administration is talking about as far as wanting to address energy for our nation, wanting to address climate change, and that's going to impact all forms of energy, electricity being one of them. There is concern for climate change. Global warming is fueling that charge. There will be efforts to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Those are probably the single biggest effort leading the assault on reliability and price. Coal generation has been targeted in the greenhouse gas emissions, but it's not the only one. All forms of energy will get targeted, be it refineries or anybody that's burning fossil fuels is emitting greenhouse gas. And that can translate into higher prices. The integration of alternative forms of energy into the electric system is going to be quite a challenge right there. Wind turbines, solar cells, these are things that are starting to become more mainstream. The state now has 5 big wind farms. I'm looking back at Steve, he's shaking his head. Yeah, 5, and one of them's expanding even larger, I believe, something like that. And that's quite a deal. That's a good thing. But it's hard to integrate those into the system all the time. The wind doesn't always blow. If the wind's not blowing and turbines aren't turning, power's got to come from somewhere. If the sun's not shining and the solar cells aren't generating electricity, power's got to come from somewhere. Those are baseload plants that we're looking at there. Those are the workhorses of the industry. That's where we can get the most electricity at the cheapest price. Net metering is a big issue. Net metering, if someone wants to put up a wind turbine and generate their own electricity, that's a good thing. They ought to be able to do that. In its most pure sense, sometimes net metering wants to be taken to an extreme to where the electric system is used as a battery. If you're generating more electricity than you need at one point in time with your wind turbine or a solar cell or whatever, you put that excess energy in the electric system, just like it's a battery. And as the wind quits blowing, you take that excess energy back out of the system. Sounds good on the surface, and it can be good in some ways, but the problem is there's no charge for using the electric system as a battery right there. And the haves and the have-nots is where we start getting issues right here, the subsidies flowing between them. And that's kind of a real simple look at the surface right there, but rest assured we're working hard to make sure that there aren't any undue subsidies in net metering for our members.